What is up, YouTube? That's here, bringing you guys a few more games with my Mega Charizard X team. In today's game, we're leading off against Lix, who has Mega Kangaskhan, Heatran, Zapdos, Conkeldurr, Aegislash, and Amoonguss. This team, by the looks of it, is very standard. It looks exactly like the type of team you would see at a VGC or Premier Challenge. I'm not gonna lie, this was probably like copy-pasted. It's too cookie cutter to be where it is at the ladder, but we are starting to get into those 16, 1700s, so we are starting to see better opponents. I'm not saying he didn't come up with this on his own, but the inexperience in playing this team is going to show. Well, maybe it's just inexperience against playing against my type of team because I'm using the most gimmicky team of all time. You also can see that we switched out our Sylveon, since I barely ever used it anyways, for a Togekiss. What does Togekiss bring to the table? Follow me. Being able to redirect Earth Powers, more specifically Earth Powers and close combats away from my Power Play Pokemon is super destructive. Also has like Roost and a bunch of other, like has Air Slash to check other grass types. I just think Togekiss is a really cool Pokemon and definitely deserves a spot in this team. So for the first game, we're going to be showcasing Togekiss, and we're going to start it off right now. Togekiss is going to be first lead pairing off with Charizard. Why lead with these Pokemon, you say? My opponent doesn't really have an Intimidator. I can get away with it, and even if they want to go Kang, they're going to have to go through my Togekiss first, which will let me get off at least one Dragon Dance, and then with one Dragon Dance, I can one-shot the Kangaskhan. So we're going to Dragon Dance first turn. Main reason why I'm Dragon Dancing without Mega Evolving, I didn't want to eat Earth Power, and I didn't want to show that. Like, I want to show that I'm Charizard X this turn without being Charizard X, and then next turn, make him think that he's smart going for the Earth Power predictable play. We saw him get a Tailwind off, it's not the biggest of deal. But Togekiss also, I'm going to pause it. Togekiss also packs Sunny Day. It's a second Sunny Day setter in my team. Sometimes bringing Venusaur into Pokemon like Heatran just won't work. Being able to bring Togekiss, who, while still has a weakness to Heatran's Flash Cannon, can actually get the Sunny Day off without just going down. And now that I have a second Sun Setter, I have a higher chance of pulling off cooler combos, I would say. Just having two Sunsetters is a lot more fun to play with as well. And Togekiss had an extra move. I think I'm running Air Slash, Sunny Day, probably Roost, and Follow Me. So that's my set. I might have Thunder Wave instead of Roost. I don't really remember, but we're going to get back into the game. No more pauses. So Zapdos goes for Protect on turn 2. Kind of weird to see Protect after you pop a Tailwind here. But Togekiss is going to Follow Me. Remember, I baited this play fully, baiting the Earth Power into my Flying type. And it's going to let Charizard go for a Flare Blitz, which was protected. So my opponent actually played pretty well, but I don't know. I felt that I totally baited him that turn. So Zapdos is going to withdraw, going into Conkeldurr here. Conkeldurr thinking he's bulky enough to eat the super strong Flare Blitz from the +1 Charizard X in the sun with the Tough Claws ability. I know there's like, it goes on and on and on, but Charizard, after Togekiss goes down, is going to trade a KO, getting a critical hit on top of that. I know for sure I didn't need it. But I do take a ton of recoil in the process. So we both even up. The score is 3-3, but I do have a Charizard that is at a little over a third. Terrakion is going to come out the same turn Kangaskhan comes out. If my opponent didn't want to send their Kangaskhan out, if it was Zapdos instead, I probably would have went for a Psych Up here. But since it's Kangaskhan, I have to play defensive. I think there's still a Tailwind going on. It might have stopped last turn. I think this is the last turn it stops. Either way, I don't want to eat a Fake Out. I go for a Double Protect. We see the Kangaskhan Heatran playing completely standard, going for the return and the Flash Cannon. Actually, that's not super standard. He could have went for the... No, yeah, it is standard. He had the Tailwind up, return was smart, Fake Out would have been bad. So, now that it's turn 5, Tailwind is gone. Flare Blitz is not going to be enough to break that Kangaskhan's Protect. Nothing ever really is. And Terrakion Close Combat actually going to activate the Chople Berry of the Heatran, cutting the super effective fighting type attack damage in half, just in time for the Heatran to retaliate with a Flash Cannon, activating my Focus Sash, leaving me at 1%. So, this game is getting real close. My Sunlight has finally faded. Togekiss doesn't have the cool Heat Rock like Venusaur did, so this Heat is only a 5-turn one. My opponent goes for the Sucker Punch on the Kangaskhan while protecting with Heatran, but I completely read that that's exactly what's happening. I go for the Close Combat on the Kangaskhan slot. Remember, last turn Kangaskhan protected, so what I did this turn was I went for the Dragon Claw on the Kangaskhan slot and the Close Combat on the Kangaskhan slot, because I knew there was no way that Kangaskhan wasn't going for the Sucker Punch, and luckily for me, Heatran protected, so I ended up getting the upper hand of that. We come in with both of our last Pokemon. I send out the Scrafty, who's using a useless Intimidate. My opponent sends out Zapdos. I start things off by getting a critical hit Fake Out on the Zapdos, not really doing that much, but showing that Zapdos isn't the bulkiest version of Zapdos. Even a critical hit on a bulky, like full HP, mostly defense Zapdos would only do about 7%. So judging by how much that does, I can assume that this thing is packing a ton of special attack. And since it is packing a ton of special attack, we can one-shot it with a Rock Slide. I think my Terrakion used like 4 or 5 close combats that game. That was pretty ridiculous, but nonetheless, I did win the game, and I think it's all thanks to Togekiss letting my Charizard set up a Dragon Dance completely for free. I mean, it had to be the sacrificial lamb, but from there, I mean, I just would not let my grasp on the game go. I mean, I loosened it a little bit once the opponent came out with a Kangaskhan and a Tailwind, but even though I was fighting a Tailwind for most of the match, I felt that I was definitely dictating the play, and that's what I like to see out of this team. So, pretty good game, and I'm going to go into Game 2. So Game 2 is we're going to feature my team on the top, and we're leading off against New York Giants fan 21, who has also another really standard team of Thundurus, Landorus, the Genie combo, Gardevoir, Rotom, Heat, Terrakion, and Kangaskhan. So we're fighting against another Terrakion. Remember, my Terrakion is adamant, so it's not really going to be able to trade that well against opposing Terrakions. I'm always going to be slower. Also, Charizard is kind of weak to Terrakion. My whole team is pretty weak to Terrakion, but I do have Scrafty, who... Now, Scrafty's weak to Terrakion too, man. I need to do something against Terrakion. Well, it's all on Togekiss, who's also weak against Terrakion. Anyways, we're just going to start this one off and get right into it. And we're going to see Rotom Heat leading off, and he pairs it with his Landorus. So, since there's Landorus on the opposing team, I think I decided to go with the Scrafty Venusaur lead. I don't really want to eat an Intimidate from the Landorus on any of my power Pokemon, so I feel that this is the best lead. I also didn't really want to lead Togekiss because my opponent has the potential of Thundurus. So that's why I led Venusaur here. I go for the Fake Out on the Rotom, dealing about 10%, and my opponent goes for the play that I exactly wanted him to. He goes for the EQ. Remember, he is intimidated, so it's not doing that much. It's going to activate my eject button, and it's going to let me come in with whatever Pokemon I want. I decided to go with Charizard this time, and you guys have seen this combo a few times before. We're going to see Rotom flinch, and then Venusaur is going to pop the Sunny Day. So now I have the Wall Venusaur with the Chlorophyll, super fast. We're going to force that Landorus out. He does not want to eat a move that he shouldn't be eating. Coming in with Gardevoir this turn, but since I knew that Landorus was most likely Scarfed, and he's stuck using Earthquake, right? Alright, I don't want to get ahead of myself, and I don't want to talk too fast. So, Landorus, right? It was the fastest thing on the board, and it used Earthquake last turn. So since I came with a Charizard, he's like, oh man, Charizard, why? I do not want to, like, Earthquake a Charizard. Why? He switches out, right? And I know he's going to switch out because he's locked into Earthquake. So, you guys get the picture. I'm like stuttering and falling over my words. But you can see how I've totally baited this. I completely ignored that Landorus slot with my Venusaur because he probably also didn't want to eat like a sleep powder or something, and he realized that there's no real reason to only Earthquake Venusaur. He switched out in for Gardevoir, eat the Flare Blitz in the sun, and things are exactly where I want them to be. I get a free KO on his Gardevoir, which was his check to my Venusaur. We also put the Rotom to sleep. So pretty good stuff so far. I know I stuttered a little bit there, but Landorus is going to come back in. He's no fool now, and, well, I guess he's still a fool. He gets the Intimidate off, but now I can just Protect Bait him. Rotom's asleep, it's not causing any harm. There's no real threat of him waking up and overheating me, and it's going to let my Venusaur, after eating an Earthquake, retaliate with a Sleep Powder. And that also shows this Landorus is 100% Choice Scarf, 100%, because it's faster than my Chlorophyll Venusaur, which is completely fine. That doesn't really bother me. So Rotom Heat is finally going to wake up. I mean, it had to happen eventually, right? He's going to go for a Protect, though, so I think it's funny. Three or four of the videos in the series, we've seen Pokemon that are asleep like that while protecting. They just... If you feel that you're going to wake up, go for your attack, because that turn was completely useless. I mean, this team obviously is just going to ignore his Rotom until it goes away, and I'm just showcasing that in this game. So Charizard is going to Protect. I don't want Landorus waking up and Earthquaking me, and I know that Venusaur is faster than Rotom in the sun, so I'm completely safe KOing the Landorus with the Venusaur, not even giving Landorus a chance to attack my Charizard. I mean, I could have just went for the Dragon Claw on the Rotom Heat slot, but I would much rather save my Charizard than save my Venusaur in the worst case scenario, which this was the second worst case scenario, losing my Venusaur, but Charizard is still safe, and now my opponent has only 2 Pokemon left with a Rotom who has his special attack cut. I decided to send in Scrafty here, lay up an Intimidate on that Kangaskhan, which is exactly what the doctor ordered. And we're going to see Kangaskhan obviously pop his Mega, gaining the Parental Bond ability. Pretty good stuff, going for a Fake Out on my Scrafty, doing a good amount of damage. That is quite a bit of damage, while eating a -1 Flare Blitz in the sun. I almost did more damage with the recoil, I feel. Like, I didn't, but like, that chunking myself from like 50 something to 34 is pretty bad because it puts me in Sucker Punch range. So now that my Charizard is in Sucker Punch range, I have to play a little bit differently than I normally would. I decided to switch out the Charizard, expecting the very obvious Sucker Punch here, going into my Tracheon. Just because if worst case scenario happened and he like low kicked me, I would have just lost, but I knew the Sucker Punch was coming. I completely felt it. We're going to see Scrafty go down to the second overheat. Now that Rotom is completely useless. It's at -4. Sun's about to wear out. And, like, there's no way that Rotom's going to be doing anything more this game. Charizard decides to come back in. I go for a Dragon Dance. That's how, like, ignoring that Kangaskhan I am right now. And he just eats close combat for it. Looks like he was probably going for a low kick, but Adamant Tracheon is faster than Wall Kangaskhan. But Jolly Kangaskhan is faster than Tracheon, so I definitely did take a risk there. But since I saw how well it ate the Flare Blitz, I knew it had more investment in HP than normal, so everything was calculated, I guess. Hashtag calculated. So now that Rotom's alone, it's probably just going to play that Protect game and wait it out, even though both my Pokemon can pretty much pick up the KO here. We see Charizard has a +1. Tracheon is burned, but I don't really need Tracheon anymore. Tracheon took out the Kangaskhan, definitely did its job. Charizard can pretty much take out this Rotom all by itself. So we go for the Dragon Claw. Yeah, it's going to pick up the one-shot on the Rotom, who's at -4, and it's going to win me the game against New York Giants fan 21. So these two games showcase my team against, I think, two Mega Kangaskhan teams that are pretty standard, and I felt that I played pretty well. So thank you guys for watching these games. I hope you enjoyed them, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.